Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. And I'll be sharing my experience with MS from first symptom to diagnosis and how I'm navigating life with MS. I am Tega, and this story is deeply personal to me. Let's start by welcoming Dr. Ada, a neurologist who helped me get my MS diagnosis. Dr. Ada, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Tega. It's my pleasure. Sharing your story is incredibly valuable, especially to raise awareness about MS.
Dr. Ada, before I share my MS story, can you tell our listeners what MS is and what the early symptoms are?
Of course, multiple sclerosis is a disease where the body's own immune system mistakenly attacks the protective covering of the nerves called myelin. Now, myelin is very important for smooth transmission of nerve signals. When the myelin cover is damaged, there's a break in communication between the brain, the spinal cord, and the rest of the body. This damage can cause scars on the nerve, which cause a variety of symptoms in different parts of the body. Diagnosing MS can be a bit tricky because it mimics different conditions.
Okay, I remember the way you described myelin to me. It's like the rubber that covers wires so they are not exposed. When you first told me about MS, the next question in my head was, how does caring affect me?
Well, people with MS often experience tiredness that stays for a long period. Numbness and tingling in the hands, as well as the feet, and also blurred vision.
I was always exhausted. Any activity would just bear me out. I remember that thinking was just something that came because of stress. But when my vision became blurry, I got very scared.
Well, Tega, the fear of the unknown can sometimes cause confusion with MS patients and also even make them feel worse. And that's why promoting MS awareness and early diagnosis are very important. I mean, you've been there. Can you tell your audience how long it took for your MS diagnosis?
Doctor, from the time I had the first symptom till I met you, it was more than 3 years, and I was in and out of hospital. I was running all sort of tests. I became a regular visitor, and I kept wondering what was going on and needed answers. It almost like I couldn't stop until I knew for sure what was wrong with me.
Yes, it can actually be a process, like a whole lot of process. Like I said earlier, MS often mimics other conditions, and that is why it's important that we run combination of neurological exams, MRI scans, and other tests just to confirm MS, and also ensure that we rule out other disorders.
So, my diagnosis was a whole lot to take in. I felt a mix of relief and finally knowing what was happening and the fear of what it meant for the future. Doctor, you were reassuring when you told me there were Nigerians living with MS. I felt so much better because it meant that I wasn't alone.
Very true, Tega. Knowing that you're not alone and connecting with people living with MS can make a huge difference. Even though MS is progressive and has no cure yet, there are so many ways to manage symptoms while living with MS, even in Nigeria.
That's right, doctor. I also learned the importance of having people around you supporting you all the way around, especially at work and at home. And having open conversations about your condition has made a huge difference for me. Doctor, during my first visit with you, you talked about flares. Can you tell our listeners what those are?
Right, flares, yes. So when the immune system attacks myelin, it causes inflammation and damage. This can result in what we call flares. During a flare, new symptoms may appear or even existing one can worsen. The location of the myelin damage in the brain and spinal cord determines the specific symptoms a person experiences. Take for instance, damage to the areas affecting vision can cause blurred vision. Damage to areas of the brain that controls muscle movements can lead to weakness or coordination problems.
Okay, so those days I suddenly felt incredibly tired and had numbness. Were those likely flares?
Yes, Tega. Fatigue, numbness, tingling, balance issues, and cognitive difficulties are quite common during MS flares. Other symptoms can include weaknesses, coordination problems, and pain. It actually varies from person to person and even from flare to flare. And that is why MS is often described as a highly variable disease.
It makes so much sense now.
Tega, can we switch things up a bit? I'd like to play the host and ask you just one question.
That's fine. Go ahead, Doc.
What would you have liked to hear from me when you first heard the word multiple sclerosis?
Doctor, that is a nice question. First, I'd like to hear there's a community of people living with MS in Nigeria. It is not a spiritual problem and it's not from my village, and nothing was wrong. It was important because I kept wondering what is happening, why even me? No one in my family before now had known about MS or even had MS. I'm pretty sure Nigerians don't know about MS either. And that is why today's podcast is dedicated to raising awareness about MS. For anyone who might be experiencing similar symptoms, do not dismiss them. Talk to your neurologist, keep asking questions, and know that there is support available always. Let's raise awareness about MS and share our stories using the hashtag #MyMSDiagnosis. This has been my MS Diagnosis. Thank you, Dr. Ada, for educating us about MS. Thank you to our listeners as well. And remember to speak with your doctor if you have experienced tiredness, numbness, and tingling that we have mentioned earlier today. Thank you for joining us. God bless you.